Be Me 27, professional archivist for the city records, physical fitness of a Victorian child with a cough, social battery currently sitting at a cool 3%. It is 2 a.m. in the basement of the municipal building, basically a sensory deprivation tank for nerds. I am currently restoring a 1958 Sunbeam toaster on my desk. Toaster decides to protest its resurrection with a shower of sparks. Silent alarm trips, because I am a tactical genius. 10 minutes later, the heavy security door gets kicked off its hinges. Enter Officer Sarah. She is wearing enough tactical gear to invade a small country. Possesses the posture of a loaded sniper rifle. Also terrifyingly gorgeous in a she could snap me like a dry twig way. She screams for me to put my hands where she can see them. I am holding a Phillips head screwdriver and vibrating with pure terror. I explain the toaster situation while sweating like a tax evader. She stares at the disassembled kitchen appliance, then stares at me. Her soul visibly leaves her body through a massive sigh. She holsters her weapon and tells me she hasn't slept in 30 hours. I offer her my emergency break room coffee. It tastes like battery acid mixed with asphalt. She takes a sip and tells me it is the best thing she has ever tasted. We end up sitting on dusty archive boxes from the 1920s. She complains about the precinct's budget being spent on drones instead of chairs. I explain why the city's plumbing records are a literal crime against humanity. We are both delirious and oxygen deprived. My internal monologue is playing the Windows XP startup sound on loop. Her shift ends and we walk out into a literal monsoon. She asks if I want to ride in the patrol car. We sprint through the rain, laughing like absolute idiots. She turns on the sirens for exactly 3 seconds just to feel something. The car smells like old donuts and high-grade gunpowder. We pull up to my apartment complex. The tension in the car is thicker than a 500-page tax audit. She looks at me and says she really doesn't want to go home to an empty flat. I tell her I have more terrible coffee and a working toaster. She laughs, and it is the most dangerous sound I have ever heard. One heavily caffeinated, adrenaline-fueled detour later. Mistakes are beautifully and enthusiastically made. My nervous system has officially left the chat. Best night of my entire life. 4 months of radio silence. I assumed I was just a blip on her tactical radar. Back in the basement, organizing 19th century property tax records. The heavy archive door doesn't just open. It slams against the wall with the force of a battering ram. Officer Sarah stands there in a gray hoodie and worn jeans. She looks like she's about to issue a citation for my existence. I drop my magnifying glass onto a pile of parchment. She marches toward my desk with a heavy, focused stride. She drops a manila medical file onto my keyboard. The sound echoes like an anvil hitting a frozen lake. I look at the file, then up at her. Her face is a mask of stone, but her eyes are wide and frantic. She points at her stomach, slightly rounded under the loose fabric. So, about that toaster night, she says. Her voice is steady, but there's a tremor in the tail end. My internal monologue plays the Windows XP shutdown sound. My brain officially enters a blue screen loop. Take a deep breath. Count to 3. I push the 1890 tax records aside to make room for her reality. I don't run, I don't whimper. I stand up and pull my high-quality ergonomic chair around for her. Sit down, Sarah. Tell me exactly what you need from me. She freezes mid-breath. The tough cop exterior shatters for exactly 1 second. She exhales a massive, shuddering breath she's been holding for months. She slumps into the chair and buries her face in her hands. I honestly thought you'd be halfway to Canada by now, she mutters. I'm an archivist, Sarah. We don't run from the permanent record. I fetch 2 cups of water from the cooler. I hand her one and stay close, but not crowding. I'm keeping it, she says, eyes searching mine for a reason to leave. Good, I reply, because I'm staying too. She looks up, genuinely stunned by the lack of a retreat. We're going to tackle this like a co-op survival game, I tell her. A small, tired, protective smile tugs at the corner of her mouth. You're a weirdly brave little nerd, aren't you? I'm a nerd who's good at following instructions. She reaches out and grabs my hand, her grip like iron. It's not a restraint. It's a connection. Level 1 starts now, partner, she says. A silent contract signed in a dusty basement at 3 a.m. The panic recedes, replaced by a strange, grounding clarity. The toaster night was just the prologue. The real mission has officially been green-lit. first official co-parenting mission. The OBGYN waiting room smells like lavender and clinical anxiety. Sarah is wearing her uniform, minus the heavy-duty belt. She fills out medical forms like she's booking a repeat offender. The pen clicks at terminal velocity against the clipboard. I sit next to her, clutching my messenger bag like a shield. She stops writing and glares at a nearby vending machine. Her stomach growls loud enough to startle a toddler across the room. I reach into my bag and deploy a tactical offering. Salt and vinegar chips, the extra stinging kind. She stares at the bag like I just performed dark magic. "How did you know?" she asks, voice dropping an octave. "Lucky guess based on your recent interest in the break room pickle jar." She rips the bag open with her teeth. "You're a terrifyingly observant nerd," she mutters through a mouthful of salt. I take that as a high-tier compliment. "Officer Sarah?" the nurse calls out. Sarah stands up, instantly assuming the point man position. I follow 2 paces behind like a loyal squire. The exam room is small and offensively bright. She hops onto the table with more grace than I have, walking on flat ground. The doctor enters and starts the pre-flight checklist. Sarah's jaw is locked tight enough to snap a pencil. She's nervous, though she'd rather be interrogated than admit it. The doctor squirts a glob of freezing blue gel onto her stomach. Sarah hisses like a cornered cat at the sudden cold. The wand moves across her skin in slow, rhythmic circles. We both stare at the monitor with predatory focus. It looks like a grainy, grayscale Rorschach test of a potato. "There," the doctor says, pointing to a flickering pixel. Then the sound fills the room. Thump, 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 thump. It hits me like a flashbang to the soul. Pure, unfiltered dopamine floods my entire nervous system. Sarah's tough guy mask doesn't just slip, it evaporates. Her eyes go wide and shiny, reflecting the light of the screen. I reach out without overthinking the tactical risk. My hand finds hers on the edge of the table. I expect her to brush me off or issue a verbal warning. Instead, she interlocks our fingers and squeezes, hard. I can feel my metacarpals groaning under the pressure. I don't pull away or flinch. I just lean into the grip and hold on. "That's a very strong heartbeat," the doctor notes. "Takes after her mother," I say quietly. Sarah looks at me, a soft, protective warmth finally breaking through. "Don't get cocky, archivist," she whispers. But she doesn't let go of my hand for the rest of the scan. We leave the clinic with a blurry printed photo. She tucks it into her inner vest pocket like a classified document. The sidewalk feels different under my feet now. Less like a stranger, more like a permanent partner. The 2-man squad is officially operational. Saturday morning at my apartment. The easy assemble box sits in the hallway like a dormant threat. Sarah arrives carrying a heavy-duty toolbox and a crate of energy drinks. She looks at the box and scoffs. "It's just wood and screws. How hard can it be?" She rips the box open with a utility knife, like she's breaching a door. I immediately deploy the archivist protocol. I sort the dowels by length on my coffee table. Washers are grouped by diameter. Screws are alphabetized by their code in the manual. "You're really doing this, aren't you?" she asks, eyebrows raised. "I am a man of systems, Sarah." She mocks my tactical sorting system while balancing a side rail on her knee. 5 minutes later, she's staring at a Part B dowel in total silence. She tries to wing the assembly using pure cop intuition. The results are structurally questionable and upside down. She sighs, her shoulders dropping an inch. "Pass me a 40mm hex bolt," she mutters, avoiding eye contact. I hand it to her without a word. The Allen wrench is a tool designed by someone who hates humanity. Sarah is sweating, her face set in a look of grim determination. She's hunched over the baseboard, muscles tensing in her forearms. My apartment is usually a tomb of silence. Now it's filled with the rhythmic clinking of metal and her soft breathing. "Hold this end steady, nerd." I slide into position, bracing the frame against my knees. Her hands are calloused and steady as she tightens the joints. She stops to wipe a bead of sweat from her forehead. "You're a good anchor," she says, her voice surprisingly soft. I take the compliment and don't let the rail budge an inch. One final turn of the screw. The crib is complete and structurally sound. Sarah gives it a firm shake to test for any tactical weaknesses. It doesn't even creak, not bad for a civilian police joint operation. We collapse onto the living room rug. The pizza arrives 40 minutes late and slightly soggy. We eat straight out of the box like scavengers. Pepperoni and lukewarm cheese never tasted so much like victory. I make a terrible joke about the crib being up to fire code. She actually laughs. Not a polite huff, but a genuine barrier-dropping sound. In the dim light of my living room, she looks radiant. My heart does a weird, frantic flip-flop in my chest. I am absolutely catastrophically falling for this woman. She leans her head back against the sofa, eyes fluttering shut. I start packing the leftover slices into my best Tupperware. Take these for your shift tomorrow, I say, snapping the lids shut. Aggressive domestic care is my only defense mechanism. She looks at the containers, then at me. Thanks, partner. Fast forward 8 weeks. We are officially in the third trimester of chaotic reality. My phone vibrates at 2:14 a.m. with the intensity of a seismic event. Spicy pickles, the text reads. Chocolate milk. The brand with the gold cap. I don't reply, I just put on my sneakers. Execute a tactical raid on the local 24-hour grocery store. I look like a sleep-deprived fugitive in my pajama pants. I secure the assets and drive to her place with purpose. Her front door is unlocked, a rare lapse in her security protocol. The apartment smells like lavender and high-grade acrylic paint. I find her hunched over her dining table under a magnifying lamp. She's wearing an oversized hoodie that says, "Police" in faded letters. Her tongue is poking out the corner of her mouth in total concentration. I set the grocery bag down with the silence of a ghost. She doesn't jump. She just holds up a finger for silence. In her hand is a brush thinner than a single strand of hair. On the table sits an army of incredibly detailed Warhammer miniatures. Tiny space marines standing in defiance of the salt shaker. "You're late," she mutters, finally looking up. "The grocery store had a standoff with a broken freezer," I lie. She rips into the pickles and takes a long pull of chocolate milk. "I didn't know you were into tabletop wargaming, Sarah. It's the only thing that keeps my brain from redlining," she admits. She starts explaining the lore of the Blood Angels with deadly seriousness. I sit next to her, mesmerized by the contrast. This woman breaks ribs for a living and paints tiny goblin eyes for fun. She hands me a half-finished miniature and a palette. "Paint the vents on that plasma rifle," she commands. My hands are shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. "Relax, archivist. I won't tase you if you mess up." She reaches over, her hand covering mine to steady the stroke. Her skin is warm and smells like the pickles she just inhaled. We work in a comfortable, focused silence for an hour. The baby kicks, a sudden ripple against the edge of the table. Sarah winces slightly, a soft smile playing on her lips. "She's going to be a heavy hitter," she whispers. I finish the highlight on the rifle and set it down. "Not bad for a civilian," she says, looking at my work. She leans her head against my shoulder, the paint fumes making us both hazy. "I'm tired, nerd." "Then go to sleep, Sarah. I'll clean the brushes." She doesn't argue, which is how I know she's truly exhausted. I help her to the bedroom and make sure she's tucked in. I collapse onto her sofa, my social battery finally hitting 0. I wake up to the morning sun hitting the miniature army. There's a heavy wool blanket draped over me that wasn't there before. A yellow sticky note is stuck to my glasses. "Good job, nerd." Breakfast is in the fridge. I look at the tiny space marine I helped paint and smile. The precinct summer barbecue is less of a party and more of a field interrogation. I am wearing my best button-down and a look of quiet existential dread. Sarah is in a sundress that doesn't quite hide the fact that she could kill everyone here. She hooks her arm through mine, her grip a warm, solid anchor. We walk into a sea of men who look like they eat gravel for breakfast. The captain is a mountain of a man with a mustache that has its own zip code. He sizes me up like I'm a suspicious package left on a subway platform. "So, this is the civilian who survived the toaster incident," he rumbles. I offer a steady hand and a polite, unwavering nod. "Archival work prepares you for high-stress environments, Captain." He doesn't laugh, but he doesn't arrest me either. Disaster strikes 10 minutes later near the industrial-sized commercial grill. The gas flow is blocked. 20 hungry enforcers are staring at raw patties with growing hostility. The designated grill master is poking the burner with a fork in a fit of rage. Sarah looks at me and tilts her head toward the crisis with a knowing smirk. "Go on, MacGyver. Show 'em." I step into the heat, feeling 50 pairs of predatory eyes on my back. It's a simple pressure valve misalignment caused by decades of poor maintenance. I ask for a paperclip and a pair of heavy-duty tongs. I clear the line and realign the ignition spark with a satisfying mechanical click. A pillar of blue flame roars to life. The silence in the park is absolute for exactly 3 seconds. Then the captain claps a hand on my shoulder that nearly dislocates my collarbone. "Feed the men, archivist!" I deploy my ultimate weapon, weaponized chillness and obscure historical trivia. I explain the 1924 zoning laws of this very park while flipping a medium-rare patty. It turns out cops actually love hearing about the secret history of their patrol beats. I am no longer a suspect. I am the man who saved the ribeyes. Sarah watches from a lawn chair, nursing a lemonade and looking weirdly proud. A rookie with a buzz cut and a massive ego leans over to her. "Why the nerds, Sarah? You could have a guy who actually hits the gym." Sarah doesn't even look at him. Her voice is a low, dangerous purr that carries across the grass. "That nerd knows more about structural integrity than you know about the law, Miller. Plus, he's the only one here who doesn't need a manual to find the on switch." She looks at me and winks, a flash of pure, affectionate loyalty. The rookie turns the color of a ripe tomato and retreats into the shadows. She walks over and steals a hot fry off my plate. "You're doing great, partner. I realize I'm not just a biological technicality in her eyes. I'm her person." Her hand slides into my back pocket as we watch the sunset over the precinct. The squad accepts the civilian. Mission accomplished. Month 8 hits like a tactical flashbang. Biological imperative, nesting mode engaged. I wake up at 6 a.m. to a sound like a jet engine. I find Sarah in the living room. She is aggressively vacuuming the ceiling fan, balanced on a kitchen chair that was never meant for this. Her face is flushed, tears streaking through the dust. "The baby will judge the dust bunnies," she sobs. "She'll grow up in a literal landfill archivist." I step into the blast zone, gently pry the vacuum nozzle from her hands. It is like disarming a live explosive. I guide her down from the chair with steady hands. Her legs are shaking, but her grip is still pure iron. "The fan is clean enough for surgery, Sarah." I lead her to the sofa. Deploy the heavy-weighted blanket as a physical anchor. She collapses into the cushions. I head to the kitchen, brew a pot of herbal tea that tastes like a warm hug. I return and put on a reality show about terrible bakers. Brain rot therapy is officially in session. She stares at the screen, her breathing finally leveling out. "I'm losing my mind, aren't I?" "You're just optimizing the environment, partner." She leans her head against my shoulder. The weight of her is the most grounding thing I've ever felt. She starts listing every possible thing that could go wrong. SIDS, daycare costs, lead paint from the 1920s. I don't offer logic or cold data. I don't try to solve the unsolvable. I just listen. I become a solid wall for her to lean against. Her hand finds mine under the blanket. She squeezes, but there's no aggression in it now. Just a quiet, desperate need for a constant. On the TV, a contestant drops a 3-tier cake. Sarah lets out a small, wet chuckle. Her eyes start to flutter shut. The adrenaline of the nesting raid finally burns out. She falls asleep mid-sentence. I stay perfectly still. A human pillow for the law. I pull out my phone and open my work email. I draft a message to the head archivist. Emergency leave requested. Reason: tactical support required at home. I'm not leaving this sofa for the next 48 hours. The dust bunnies can wait. The partner is safe. Midnight on the balcony. Rain is a rhythmic static against the glass. Sarah stares at the blurred streetlights. She looks smaller in my oversized hoodie. I lean against the railing beside her. The city below is neon and wet asphalt. "I'm going to be a liability," she says. Her voice is thin, stripped of its command. "Explain that to me," I say. "My whole identity is being the toughest person in the ward." She gestures to her stomach with a frustrated sigh. "What happens when I'm soft? When I'm thinking about a nursery instead of a suspect?" She's terrified of losing her edge. The loaded sniper rifle is worried the safety is stuck. I take a breath and step into her space. I look her dead in the eyes. Zero hesitation. "Sarah, listen to me. You're growing a human being from scratch. You are a biological factory for a new life. That isn't being soft. That is peak apex predator behavior." She blinks, the logic hitting her like a tactical stun. "Your capacity for love doesn't overwrite your strength. It's an armor upgrade. It's a new reason to be the baddest person in the city." She stares at me for a long beat. The rain picks up, drumming on the metal roof. Her eyes are glistening with something she'd never call a tear. You really believe that, don't you? I know it for a fact, I tell her. She reaches out and grabs my shirt collar. Her grip is firm, pulling me toward her. You're a silver-tongued nerd, she whispers. She pulls me in for a kiss. It's not soft or tentative. It's intense, desperate, and grounding. My central nervous system experiences a total blackout. Her hands move to the back of my neck. The emotional wall she's kept up finally crumbles. There is no cop or archivist right now, just two people in a rainstorm holding on to the truth. She pulls back an inch, forehead against mine. Don't ever let me forget that, she says. I'm the record keeper, Sarah. It's permanent. She exhales a laugh against my lips. The vulnerability payload has been delivered. Absolute mutual trust is the new protocol. The mission just got a lot more personal. 4 days past the due date. Tension is thicker than wet concrete. We are locked in a high-stakes game of Mario Kart. Sarah is currently Rainbow Road's most dangerous inhabitant. I'm in second place, playing for my life. A blue shell is mid-flight when she suddenly freezes. Her controller clatters onto the hardwood floor. The sound of a splash echoes in the silent room. My water just broke, she says, voice strangely calm. The blue shell hits, but I don't care about the race anymore. Hyper-competent dad mode engages instantly. I grab the go bag from the hallway with tactical precision. Check the watch, time the first contraction. Let's move, partner. I help her to the car, my heart a hummingbird in a cage. I drive through the city streets like a professional wheelman, obeying every traffic light but radiating pure, focused urgency. The hospital lobby smells of industrial lemon and panic. A triage nurse tries to block my path at the double doors. Policy says only one person in the initial assessment, she drones. Sarah's head snaps around, her eyes flashing like a siren. He's my partner, and he's staying glued to my side, she barks. The nurse pales and steps back like she's seen a ghost. We move into the delivery room at a tactical sprint. Sarah is hooked up to a dozen monitors within minutes. The contractions hit her like a physical weight. She grabs my hand, and I feel my metacarpals scream in protest. I don't pull away. I offer my bones as a sacrifice. Listen to me, I whisper, leaning close to her ear. Did you know the first municipal archive was founded in 12th century Italy? She lets out a pained, jagged laugh. You and your damn facts, nerd. Keep talking, she gasps, her grip tightening until my hand goes numb. I tell her about the Great Fire of London and the resilience of stone. I tell her she's the strongest structure I've ever seen. She oscillates between cursing my name and begging me not to let go. The doctor enters, calling for the final push. Sarah's face is a mask of pure, agonizing determination. I am a background NPC witnessing an actual superhero origin story. Hold my hand, she commands, her voice a raw, primal rasp. I'm right here, Sarah. I'm not going anywhere. The room dissolves into a blur of white light and effort. One final, earth-shattering surge. The tension snaps like a high-tension cable. A new sound pierces the clinical silence. The chaotic screaming stops, replaced by a tiny, angry wail. It is the loudest sound in the universe. I finally remember to breathe. The doctor lifts a red-faced, squirming potato. Sarah's grip on my hand finally loosens. She is trembling, her face slick with sweat and tears. The nurse cleans the baby with practiced speed. Sarah looks at me, her eyes wide and glassy. Is she okay? She asks, her voice barely a whisper. She's perfect, I say, my voice cracking. They wrap the baby in a striped hospital blanket. The tough cop exterior is officially gone. In its place is a woman looking at her whole world. The nurse hands the bundle to Sarah. She cradles the baby like she's holding a live grenade made of glass. Hey there, little squad mate, she murmurs. The baby stops crying at the sound of her voice. Sarah looks up at me, a soft, exhausted smile on her lips. Come meet your daughter, archivist. I step closer, my legs feeling like overcooked noodles. She shifts the baby toward me. I reach out, my arms forming a shaky cradle. She weighs nothing, yet she anchors me to the floor. I look down at the tiny wrinkled face. She has Sarah's stubborn chin. I think she already wants to issue me a citation, I whisper. Sarah lets out a wet, genuine laugh. She's beautiful, Sarah. She's ours, she corrects me. The medical staff fades into the background. The monitors continue their steady, rhythmic beep. Sarah leans her head against my arm. She is completely at peace for the first time in months. I kiss her forehead, tasting salt and triumph. I'm never letting go, I promise. I know, she says, closing her eyes. You're the record keeper. You keep the important stuff. We sit there in the quiet of the 4 a.m. ward, an unbreakable 3-person unit. The archives can stay in the basement. My real work is right here. The tactical mission was a success. Best mistake I ever made.